Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Team Basstic TV. I'm your host, Evan Salve, and today we're out here at beautiful Catalina Island. The target is Calico bass. We're going to be working the whole backside of the island, starting on the east end where we are now, and ending up over by the west end, where there's always some big fish in tight to the rocks. Reports coming out of the island have indicated that there are some big calico bass to be caught, both on the beach and in the outer lanes. So we're going to be throwing our swim baits, we're going to be throwing our swim jigs, we're going to be working our hard baits if the sun comes out, and hopefully we're going to bag some big calico bass. Stay tuned. So we're starting out the morning fishing these inside boilers, these inside rocky beaches. It's a really fun style of fishing, but it's combat fishing at its finest. When you hook a big fish in there, they're gonna pull, so you gotta pull real hard back and try to wrestle them out. How we're fishing it? As you can see, along the shoreline, there's a lot of cracks, crevices, little areas where there's got the water kind of washing around what we call boil rock, which is either a submerged or a half submerged kind of rocky boulder or piece of structure. So how I'm approaching it, you can see these washes, these fish will stage by them. They want that movement, because if there's movement, the crabs, all the little crustaceans, all the little fish that are clinging to the wall, they're gonna get knocked off and they're gonna kind of get pushed into that surge, and those big bass, which are prowling around in there, are gonna knock out and give them a big chomp and fulfill their need for fresh food. So how I'm going to approach it, I'm going to take my swim bait, my swim jig, whatever I'm fishing, and I'm going to place an anchor cast into that wash. Now often those fish are going to eat it right when it hits the water, so be ready. If you don't get bit right away, let the current kind of carry it around for a sec. Swirl it and kind of give it some movement, and the fish, they'll see it and they'll key on it immediately, or it might take them a sec. If you don't get bit in the first 5 seconds, letting that bait kind of get washed around, start a slow, steady retrieve. Move that bait out of the inside, and a lot of times that's when you're going to get those good bites. Like I said, when you get bit, pull really hard because these fish are going to turn their head. They're going to try to dog you right back in there. And if they dig your head or their head into some structure, into some muscle-encrusted rock, it's game over. And you're not going to get that fish that could potentially be a bass of a lifetime. So I'll show you one more time. Casting in there, long cast. Putting it right on the beach, right in the structure, right in the wash. I'm just starting that kind of slow retrieve out. Let the current carry it for a second. And then, no bites. Start that slow retrieve, covering water on the way out. The fish aren't always sitting directly on the rock. Sometimes they'll be staging on the outside if there's some isolated stringers, some hard bottom on the outside. So if you're not getting bit right away, don't be discouraged. That being said, I'm not going to really fish a bait over blank water where there's no structure. So if I see that it's cutting off into sandy bottom, if I can see that physically, if it's clear water, you can tell by the color of the water, then I'm going to reel it in and take another cast. So that's with the swim bait. There's a couple other ways that you can really effectively fish these inside zones. One of those ways is with the swim jig. If you'll pass me the swim jig, Rod. Thank you, Jeffrey. Swim jigs are one of my favorite lures for fishing this inside stuff. 3 of our 4 high finishes in the SWBA tournaments have come on swim jigs, fished tight to the rocks, right on the beach, slowly, methodically, and thoroughly. What I got here is I got a Warbait Slayer swim jig. I think this is the Thing color right here. It's a 3/4 ounce model. I've got it with a 5-inch fawn fish from Big Hammer on the back. I like a little bit of a lighter swim jig because it doesn't plow to the bottom as quickly. It does suspend a little bit. It does get washed around and it's a more natural presentation. Crabs don't sink like a rock when they get washed out. They kind of have to get carried in the current, try to stabilize themselves. So they're going to hold a little higher in the column, at least for a little bit. Now with the swim jig, I'm going to do an even slower presentation than I would with the swim bait. As I was saying with the swim bait, once I let it sit in there for a second, I'm going to slowly wind it out. It's a little different with the swim jig. So I got a nice little wash, nice little eddy there. So I'm going to take my swim jig, I'll pitch it in there, right next to a boil rock, and I'm going to let it settle out. Same thing I talked about with the swim bait. Let it kind of get washed around for a second. And if it gets snagged, just pull it right off. It's a great thing about these swim jigs, these Slayer swim jigs from Warbaits, is they are rockless and weedless to an extent, but it's going to definitely cut down those hang-ups. So anyway, I'm going to let it kind of settle out there, and then instead of winding it, I'm going to slowly drag it, kind of hop it, raise the rod tip and lower it, or you can use the reel and take a few winds and take it out of gear. That's going to keep that bait low to the ground. It's going to be moving along like a lobster, a crab that hasn't necessarily lost its footing. It's made it to the bottom and now it's trying to scurry away. So swim jigs are an extremely effective lure to use in this inside stuff. Just like the swim bait, you're going to catch a lot of big fish, so be ready for the right bite.
Calling it. Yeah. Say about that, Evan.
I think that's very dangerous. So I just pulled this nice bass off the wall, and Jeff there, at the same time, bangs a nice hardbait bass there. Very cool. That's the great thing about out here is you can literally be doing 2 different things. And because the kelp's tucked right up against these walls, he can work those outer lanes. I can work the nasty, beautiful calico bass. We'll let her go. Got that on a 5.5-inch fawn fish Big Hammer. Got it on a 1-ounce black and gold warbait head. Tied on to 40-pound Seaguar leader. Connected to, this is 50-pound Moss Green Power Pro right here. Fill it all the way to the top with just a short 3-foot leader. Rod and reel wise, I've got a Curado 300 EJ with a Shimano Crucial 711H, their swim bait model. It's a very versatile setup. I fish this when I'm burning swim baits down the lanes, pitching on the walls, fishing boil rocks, really all kinds of applications. It's probably the most versatile bait casting swim bait rod you're gonna find from Shimano as of right now. So Great little setup here, very effective, very easy to use, and very lightweight.
Oh, it is.
I tell you one thing, it sure is nice to have my trolling motor back. Thanks to Nick at the Trolling Motor Doctor, who got it up and running in just a day or two. He's been great to Team Basstic. He saved the day on numerous occasions, so that's a little shout out for you, Nick. He's located in Lakewood. He's the best trolling motor dealer, repair. Any questions, check him out online, Trolling Motor Doctor. Give him a call on his phone. They're a great operation, family owned, family run. So, thank you, Nick. So our day is coming to a close once again at beautiful Catalina Island. We ran the whole backside from east to west and picked fish all the way. It wasn't the best day we've had out here, but it certainly wasn't the worst. We ended up with probably about 2 dozen nice legal-sized calico bass, up to about 3.5 pounds. We didn't get the big ones we were looking for, but not for lack of trying. We really threw a lot of big baits and a lot of big fish places. They just didn't cooperate today. Things I would have loved to have seen, sun, it never peaked out today, and that kind of put a shut down to the outer kelp bite that is usually pretty good out here, especially when you get some of that current and you get some of that bait swimming through it like we did see today. But we're gonna go into Twin Harbors, we're gonna stock up on some food because we are very, very hungry, and then we're gonna make the run back to South Shores and conclude what can once again only be considered an excellent day on the water. See you soon.